Thanks for taking a look at this World of Tanks video, and thanks for playing World of Tanks. Going through some information here on the Strv M4257 Tier 6 Swedish medium premium tank. It is an autoloader. It's very lightly armored. The penetration damage values are pretty strong. It's kind of a middle range mobile tank, and also very lightly armored medium tank for tier 6. So you're not going to be able to rely on the armor, and you're also not really going to be able to rely on the mobility. It's not terrible mobility, but it's not breakaway or anything like that. The gun is really good, and in the end, that's kind of what it has going for it, and that's what you're going to be getting out of it as a player. And yeah, it's pretty solid. It has good penetration. It has good damage, and the velocity is okay for tier 6. I think it's kind of in the higher realm for tier 6, but we're going to see here that it does have some drop off over range. So Prokhorovka or something like that, winner. Standard match. In here, I'm going to be kind of excuse me, going around in circles and stuff like that. Again, this is not a fast medium, you can kind of see here at this point, and this is not a heavily armored vehicle. It's completely a support gun with, a support vehicle, kind of all about the gun. And my team doesn't really have any coherent deployment at this point. We have a whole bunch of guys there at like E4, 5, 6. And it looks like 3 guys at like B2. So I'm trying to figure out, where I can go to be of support to my team, and I kind of figure out this rock's going to be probably a pretty decent place. Yeah, defending the base is never a bad idea. If there's any one point on the map you can be guaranteed that the enemy team would want to get to, if they had the opportunity to do so, it would be your team's capture point on these standard matches. So it's not a bad idea just to sort of put yourself in position to shoot the enemy vehicles as they are coming at your team's capture point. Anyway, that's what's going on here. There's not really... We formed up pretty decently at this point. I think that heavy tank over there on the Z column, I think that's not the smartest move to make. We have 2 heavy tanks on this team, and that guy's effectively removing him from his teammates' support. One of the things that you'll learn, at least playing through like those British AT tier tank destroyers, like the Tortoise line, if you don't learn it otherwise, one of the things you'd learn playing through that line is a vehicle that is slow to move and especially slow to traverse. For one thing, you don't want enemy vehicles behind you, and to the extent that that's a possibility that might happen, which is anytime that an enemy comes up on you, you want to have allies around you, and that guy's kind of removing himself from that ally support, that heavy tank there at F0. Alright, so our numbers are pretty thin. It looks like we have the 3 light tanks, that platoon of 3 light tanks, kind of all over the place now. We have a medium at A6, a destroyer at A5, and yeah, you can see at this point I'm basically just keeping cover, protecting my hit points, and taking the shots that I can get. Coming up as the magazine reloads, taking some more shots. You can see that gun's pretty decent. It's not going to penetrate every shot against the tier 5 heavy, but it'll penetrate most of them, even through the turret. here coming up. Again, kind of timing that reload with that Crusader's position to get a shot pretty quickly as I'm able to, getting back down into cover. A big reason why I've been relying on that rock there as cover, and otherwise just keeping my vehicle moving around even just a little bit, is because of the enemy artillery. Just make sure that the enemy artillery doesn't have a good shot on me. Otherwise, a lightly armored, relatively slow moving medium just kind of sitting still in a field would be a perfect target for artillery. And now it's a waiting game. Again, it's not a fast medium that I'm playing, and it's not a heavily armored vehicle that I'm playing. What I have going for me is a pretty cool gun, pretty powerful gun, and whatever skill I have, whatever ideas that I have, the strategy that I can use. So we're just gonna watch and see how this goes here. You might have a teammate thinking that someone needs to push forward. It's not always the case. I don't I'm not exactly in a position to be moving forward, and here you can see having numbers where we have numbers right now is a good thing. Again, this is kind of the one part of the map that any or all enemy vehicles would probably want to get to, and so if we just kind of keep some numbers here in a safe, protected fashion, including protected from arty, we stand a pretty good chance to handle the enemy team. Just kind of let them come at us, and as we can see here so far, they've kind of been obliging, coming at us more or less one at a time. It's exactly what you'd want, right? Going back to my rock, keeping an eye on things, and that medium is pushing up. Absolution's going to give us a shot, and there's the front plate, and so I go back a little bit, get the track and the penetration. Another penetration, get a track assist. At this point, that medium vehicle, the other medium on our team, has been destroyed. So basically the spotting is up to me, maybe this Jackson, I think it's a Jackson, if the Jackson wants to do some spotting. And I want to be clear, just, my hit points are my own responsibility. As much as that artillery ally of mine might want me to move forward quickly, that artillery ally of mine would certainly want me to make sure that I have hit points, would certainly want me to make sure that I'm alive and active and present on the battlefield. I think it's easy when you're getting pressure from teammates. I think it's easy to kind of internalize that and kind of, get frantic, or at least a little bit anxious about the situation, and that being anxious, or that playing frantically can really be a bad thing in terms of playing well, keeping your hit points, staying in good positions, moving from one good position to another good position as it's appropriate. It's important just to kind of stay calm, do what feels right to you, do what feels comfortable to you. First and foremost, preserve your hit points. Even even if you're the last person on your team or one of the last 3 people on your team, it's important that you first and foremost have hit points. You can always deal damage later. I mean, until that clock reads 0, you can always deal damage later. It's important not to be in a rush to deal damage. It's important to, again, first and foremost, make sure that you have hit points. There's no way to deal more damage after you've been reduced to 0 hit points. So that's kind of objective number 1, preserve your own hit points. Anyway, kind of wanted to show off this Swedish medium. Kind of an interesting match there of managing kind of some unusual team deployment. That's sometimes what happens in these middle tiers. And I think here lately in December and January, I think the player base has been unusual. If I want to try to make sense of it, I might try to say that it's like a winter break, and so we have a lot of college students who normally don't play a lot during the week, just playing all the time because they've got all the time in the world. But anyway, this match made for an interesting co-carry there with that Jackson tank destroyer. And I kind of wanted to show off the Swedish premium medium. They put out that Dragon. My guess is here before long we will see the rest of the Swedish mediums. Thanks for taking a look at this World of Tanks video. Thanks for playing World of Tanks.